Today on the newscast, find out how an all-time Iranian terror master's son-in-law is carrying on the family business. Plus, Israel breaks up an Iranian plot to target Israelis abroad. Get all the breaking details next. Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast. If you thought you heard the last of Iranian terror kingpin Qassem Soleimani when he was eliminated in a U.S. drone strike back in January 2020, think again. The Israel Defense Forces Arabic language spokesman released a series of tweets today outlining how Qassem Soleimani's son-in-law is now carrying on the family business, and as you might have guessed, that business is terror. Now, Saeed Reza Hashim Safi al-Din is married to Qassem Soleimani's daughter. He is based in southern Lebanon, where his father, Hashim Safi al-Din, heads up Hezbollah's executive council and is very close to Hezbollah leader Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah. Now, the younger al-Din travels to Iran several times a month, where he sees his wife, again, who is Soleimani's daughter, but also on those little trips to Iran, he helps arrange the shipment of advanced weaponry from Iran into the hands of Hezbollah in southern Lebanon at Israel's doorstep. And the way he's doing it, according to the Israel Defense Forces, is through civilian flights going from Tehran in Iran to Damascus International Airport in Syria. And then these advanced weapons are apparently offloaded and they are transited on their way to southern Lebanon. Now, the Israel Defense Forces made the point today in this series of tweets that obviously, if you are a Hezbollah member, a high-ranking Hezbollah member, and you are transiting advanced weapons on a civilian aircraft, it clearly puts civilians at risk. But look, we're talking Hezbollah here, folks, which uses civilians and civilian homes as human shields in southern Lebanon. So no big surprise there. But another thing to keep in mind, we talk often here, obviously on the newscast, it seems every other day, about Israel carrying out airstrikes in Syria, hundreds over the past several years. Well, many of these strikes are in and around the Damascus area, in particular near the Damascus International Airport. We know not only are civilian airliners landing there from Tehran, but also unmarked planes as well, continuously carrying these advanced weapons. At the top of the list for those advanced weapons, of course, you know the name. We've talked about it a lot here in the newscast. PGMs, that stands for Precision Guided Missiles or Munitions. Folks, they do exactly what their name says. They are designed to hit targets with great accuracy. It's a red line for Israel that it will not allow Iran to cross. Nevertheless, Iran has been hell-bent on supplying those PGMs, or at least the PGM parts that can be later assembled in Lebanon, to Hezbollah. So the Israeli Air Force, and also not only through the air, but through surface-to-surface missile strikes, have continuously targeted these advanced weapon shipments transiting through Syria. Folks, why do you think Iran was so desperate to help its good friend Bashar al-Assad hang on to power in Syria during that Syrian civil war, to the point where the not-so-dearly departed terror master Qassem Soleimani paid not one, but two visits to Russia in 2015 to implore Vladimir Putin to get involved in Syria and help bail Assad out? That's exactly what Putin did, as we all know. But Syria is crucial to that Iranian land bridge, going from Iran through Iraq to Syria, through Lebanon to the Mediterranean. That's what Iran wants, that land bridge. And right now, essentially, they have it. But when it comes to those advanced weapons, Israel has said, again, red line, we are going to preemptively act for two reasons. Number one, because we will not allow Hezbollah to acquire advanced weapons that can hit every site in Israel with great precision. Remember, folks, Israel is the size of the state of New Jersey, rather small to say the least. Secondly, Israel says Iran, Hezbollah, We also will not allow you to drive to the Golan Heights up against our border, the Israel-Syria border. We're not going to allow it. Unfortunately, there is already an untenable situation in southern Lebanon where Hezbollah has some 150,000 rockets and missiles aimed at every inch of Israel. Israel will not allow Iran and Hezbollah to duplicate that in Syria to the northeast. It's not going to happen, so you will see more and more of these airstrikes, including around Damascus, when people like Saeed al-Din arrive with advanced weapon shipments. You're going to see the strikes even though Russia is there in Syria, and as we've documented here in the newscast, things have become increasingly tense in recent months. Stay tuned, because Israel and Iran continue to be on a collision course in Syria. And it was interesting, it was good to get these specifics today from Israel's Arabic language spokesman about one of the key players here again, Saeed Reza Hashim Safi al-Din, a key player. By the way, not many photos at all available of this individual. We found one blurry photo of him, that was it. So a shadowy figure as well, but heavily involved in Hezbollah's finances. And again, married to Soleimani's daughter-in-law. Interesting how it is all interlinked between the various terror factions. Iran, the head of the snake, of course, but its tentacles reach to Yemen, Gaza, Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, and not surprised that Soleimani and someone close to Nasrallah, Soleimani's daughter, and someone close to Hezbollah leader Nasrallah would be together. One last story before we go and we head into the weekend here. Israel thankfully shared this week, or the Israeli security services, that they broke up an Iranian plot to lure Israelis abroad and to harm them, assassinate them, kidnap them. What these Iranians were doing, they were using fake identities basically, and we've seen this before on the part of Iran, folks, and we've documented this in previous newscasts. Iran posing as someone else, posing as a bank executive, posing as a journalist, and reaching out to various Israelis in the business sector, former Israeli defense officials, not in Israel proper, but overseas, and perhaps in Israel proper as well, and presenting themselves as a journalist and saying, hey, I'd like to interview you. Thankfully, the Israelis who received these bogus emails from Iranian intelligence operatives said, I don't think so. They reported the emails, so this plot did not come to fruition. But again, it shows you the deadly intent of the Iranian regime, where they are oftentimes going to act outside of the borders of the Middle East. We know about the Iranian terror nexus surrounding Israel on all sides, that ring of fire, but in places like Europe, Africa, Asia, Iran has a very active intelligence apparatus that will not hesitate to carry out assassinations and terror attacks. So that fits with the pattern we've seen from Iran over the years. A lot going on in the world's most volatile and chaotic region. We're keeping a very close eye on it for you here on the newscast. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. Hey, keep all of this in your prayers this weekend. We are moving into some very dangerous times in the Middle East. The Iranian nuclear program ramping up. Israel saying time is short. Israel training for a possible strike against Iran's nuclear facilities. Be watchful. And we are absolutely doing that here in the Watchman Newscast, and we are glad that you are here with us every day for such a time as this. Hey, have a great weekend. If anything breaks over the weekend, we will come to you. Until next time, God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. If you enjoyed this episode and want to see more, make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, click subscribe, and tap the bell icon to turn on notifications for new Watchman Newscast episodes every weekday.